Get ready because Hatsune Miku is coming to Desert Diamond Arena on April 28th. The Miku Expo 2026 North American Tour brings the world's most iconic virtual pop star to life in a mind-blowing live show, massive visuals, unreal fan energy, and a global community coming together for one unforgettable night, April 28th, Diamond Desert Arena. Celebrate the creative culture of Miku. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. See you there.
Many people have a desire to enter the world of investing, whether it be through real estate, stocks, or entrepreneurship. However, people often face self-doubt, a limited belief system, or simply a lack of knowledge to put behind their ambition. It's easier than you think to overcome these obstacles if you know exactly what's holding you back. Partner with Andre to forge new neurological pathways that unlock breakthrough strategies for income generation, reshape your belief systems, and construct your desired life. With over 15 years of experience in finance and a decade devoted to teaching wealth preservation, these achievements are no mere coincidence. One thing is clear, if others have done it, you can too. Start your complimentary action plan today at www.andrestewartauthor.com. Welcome to the Investing Uncensored podcast. If you've been searching for ways to break free from the 9-to-5 grind, scale or start your own business, generate passive income, or gain insights from others who have achieved their desired lifestyle, get ready. Prepare to be inspired as we provide you with invaluable tips, resources, and first-hand experiences from Andre and other industry experts who have accomplished remarkable things in their respective fields. This is the Investing Uncensored podcast, your roadmap to success. And now here's your host, Andre Stewart.
Welcome to Investing Uncensored. I'm your host, Andre Stewart. And if you've been following the Game Behind the Game series, you're going to love today's guest. And what we're going to break down today in this episode is actually the game behind the game. I've been following David for a long time, since he was with Stanberry Research. So I know he's the qualified person to give us all the game behind the game. And we're going to break it down today. But David, if you can, let everybody know how you got into precious metals, because that's how I found you, and about, your outlook and, basically everything that we talked about before hopping on board, your track, how you got here.
Oh, well, great. Well, thank you for the invitation. I honor that. And I never worked at or with Stanberry Research, but I was interviewed by them a couple of times. In fact, I did an interview about bank bail-ins, and it went viral and had like 2 million views. But I was interested in precious metals at an early age, only because the coinage changed when I was 11 years old. You went from 90% silver coins that were, dimes, quarters, and halves. I used to get 25 cents a week allowance to silver quarter. One day, my dad dropped what I call Johnson slug in my hand. I'm thinking, well, these can't be equal. It's an 11-year-old kid. I'm like, that's just common sense. It's, well, this one's got silver. This one looks like it's copper, and I don't know what this other metal is.
Yeah,
it can't be equal. So that maybe, put a spark in me. I mean, I didn't go, I'm going to find out about the silver market or any of that. But I was interested in finance, so much so that my dad was pestered by me to get in the stock market as a kid. And as you well know, and the audience knows, you have to be 18 to do a legal contract, but they have an exemption in California, and it's called the Uniform Gift to Minors Act. And if you sign that piece of paper, it allowed your kid at 16 to open up a brokerage account, and I did that. So I started trading stocks at 16. Obviously, I wanted to go into finance. My dad blew up, said, "Oh, you're not going to do that," because he was having really bad luck in the stock market. The stockbroker thought those guys were not above board. And so I said, figure something else out. So I read the career guide, the World Book Encyclopedia. Looked like being an airline pilot was really a cool way to go. So I started flying at age 16. And I went into the aircraft industry after getting the degree in aero engineering, getting every rating you could get by the time I was age 19. Taught flying as a flight instructor during the time I was about 2 years in college. Taught the architecture to fly, his wife and several others. Going from, one kid was the son of the mayor of Burbank to cowboys that had fences to fly over. So quite an interesting beginning. So that's the long story, even longer. I'll give it back to you.
Well, so that you mentioned one thing early, which we're going to get into this, but you mentioned, your dad giving you your first coin. So then obviously you have an opinion about, crypto, I would assume, but I know you have a book. I found you because of silver. I know you're a precious metals guy, so I found you because of silver. And then I think it was like a month ago, silver took a huge hit. So because people are obviously interested in investing on this channel, what are you thinking about it? What happened with silver and why did it take a huge hit like it did?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question about silver taking a hit. But before that, I was want to give kind of a big long-term view just as a basis for, your audience that may not be totally familiar with what we're, the big picture. So, why am I different? I've got 40 years in the markets. I've written a book called The Silver Manifesto. I published a financial newsletter called The Morgan Report. I produced a new documentary called Silver Sunrise at silversunrise.tv for free that your audience might want to look at on the weekend. I'm not a perma bull. I'm a cycles analyst, and I focus on sound money, real assets, capital preservation before speculation. So having said that, I want to get that out. The reason the market got overbought was that the paper markets are highly leveraged, and there was a lot of buying pressure in the paper markets. We went up 140% in the year 2025. That's a nice increase. Beat the S&P, beat gold, doubled the profit in gold. But in January alone, Andre, it went up 70% in a month. So now I traded futures for a living for a while. And I learned the hard way that anything that goes parabolic, you would not have to show me the stock or the commodity. If you show me that chart, I don't care if it's rapeseed oil, cotton, or IBM shares. When I see that chart, I know that it's going to come down and come down hard. And that's exactly what happened. So it's just the way the markets work. It got overbought. The people that really know how to trade futures better than anyone else are the commercials, which in this case are the banking interests. The miners really don't hedge very much in the futures market. People think they do. They really not. They do some, but not to the degree that people think. And that's what happened. Is normal market psychology. I mean, think about throwing a tennis ball really hard. It's got all the momentum, and then it starts to lose speed, hits the top, it's static for a millisecond or two, and then it starts down and it starts gaining speed on the way down. And that's what took place in January.
I got into, again, I'm happy you explained to everybody your background, right? Because I know you from what I just mentioned, but other people might not. So I appreciate that. But I got into silver because of you. So when I got in it, it was like $22. Yeah. And now I think it was at, what was it at? I got out maybe in 2024, but what was it at in January? So people know the jump from $22 in like 2020 to what it got to in January.
I'd have to look, and I got most of these numbers in my head, but I think around 35. You could check me on that. But I go from 35 was the breakout point. That I know. So 35-ish to 124.
Exactly.
And then down to like 68 in that day of sell-off, and now we're back around 80. So if you look at 35 to 80, you're up, 2.5 times roughly. And that's a pretty good deal on a real money. I mean, think of it this way. A silver dime right now costs $6.20. So that dime is 62 times face value, which tells you how bad the currency has been depreciated.
Correct. We're going to get into that too. So then it's funny because I did buy coins during that time frame. So would you feel like, obviously with stocks, would you feel like there was more leverage in buying a silver, was it the silver ETF, versus just owning the coins outright? Because people were selling the coins. Which one do you think provided the most value? Obviously the stock, but as far as right now goes.
Well, as far as value is concerned, I think the equity side is much better. The ETFs just basically track the price. But I mean, these mining shares, I mean, if I could tell you, Andre, I'll sell you silver at $35 the ounce. And you say, wait a minute, David, it's 82 today. What are you doing? I say, oh, buy Pan American Silver, because what they're selling that share price for is equivalent to $35 silver. So does that guarantee that the Pan American shares are going to get to the value that they deserve at $82 silver? It does not. But it highly implies that it'll get there or get close to it. So really, to catch up to people that bought silver at 22 or 35, the best way to participate is in the top tier cash-rich unhedged streamers and royalty companies in this space. And at the top of the market, gold shares sell about 30 times earnings. Silver shares sell at roughly 50 times earnings. Now, I'm talking past history. That does not necessarily mean that it'll happen this next time. However, silver is more volatile. It's a smaller market, and it seems to be more edgy than gold. It's equivalent of comparing the Dow Jones to the NASDAQ. The Dow is kind of a steady eddy. conservative investors, blue chips, that type of thing, whereas the NASDAQ is more high tech, a more higher risk reward, but it also has a higher multiple.
That's that's spot on too, because I was in a junior minor, I think it was JNUG, which is super leverage. And then I think I had SLV, but silver was so much cheaper to get into than gold at that time, but they both took a run up, something crazy. So do you think now that silver had that drop will be a good time to buy, or do you think there's still some more downside that's probably coming?
Well, I'm going to answer your question. I'll give a little background first, and that's about the entire monetary system. All currencies fail. It's 100% historical record. Debt-based systems require perpetual growth, which are really not. The U.S. debt trajectory is exponential, not linear. So we're going to get there faster than most people think. Interest expenses become the largest part of the federal budget, and you can't solve a debt crisis by creating more debt.
Correct.
So I think everyone should have protection, and that means real money, which means gold and silver, and silver particularly. So I think you should have the real metal first. And if you've accomplished that, then you can move on to into the SLV, the ETFs, or some shares or whatever. But as a base method, if you go to a certified financial planner, and I think we both work for them, at least I have, and they'll tell you, you need 3 to 6 months savings. And a lot of people follow their advice. So, it differs for everybody. I mean, I've been out of the workforce for so long, I don't even know what my average wage is. And let's just make up a number. It's $5,000 a month, okay? So 3 months is $15,000. You put that. Well, that's depreciating every day it's in the bank.
Correct.
And if you save it in gold and silver as a long-term savings, you only attack it if you need it for, an emergency, medical bill, car repair, or whatever. You've got it to rely on. But if you put that into silver or gold, as I just give the illustration on a silver dime being worth $6.20, you're saving in real money. People say, well, it doesn't pay interest. Well, it doesn't. But it also appreciates or maintains your wealth.
Correct.
Really, people get it backwards. Even me, you think about, it's worth $6.20. Well, did that dime change?
No,
it didn't change at all.
Yeah.
So what did change? What changes how much purchasing power a dollar has.
Correct.
Down 62-fold in the time that, we went off the gold standard. That's a little bit scary because I was, whatever it was in 1971, I was like 18 years old or something.
Yeah.
So in my lifetime, and it's not over yet. In fact, I think we're in the last phase of this bull market in the metals, Andre, and we're looking at higher prices still and an acceleration into those prices. And people that don't have some exposure to the metals are probably going to wish they have. I want to be as objective as I can. I mean, I've studied monetary history. I look at the markets all the time. I look at all the markets, bonds, stocks, the dollar, currency markets, all that stuff. But having said that, a balanced approach is best. You don't have to overload. But like I said, if your savings is in metal and everything else is real estate or stocks or whatever, your business, you're fine. You're in good shape, really, because most Americans don't have any savings.
Correct.
It's very little. And it's certainly not in a savings plan that will protect them in the coming inflationary blow off.
So there's two things we're going to unpack here. But since we're talking about the monetary system and how, what is it, every 250 years, empires fall. And I think we're at 200 and I think we're past that point, actually. So with you saying that about the financial system, what do you think about crypto? Right? Everyone is on this crypto crave. Not as much as they were, obviously, 2 years ago, but people are still on. What's your thoughts on crypto?
It's a very interesting question. And so my thoughts on crypto are quite extensive, and I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but for a balanced perspective, you can go to my website, themorganreport.com, pull down the blog tab, and I don't know what I've got, 1,700 interviews or something. I mean, it's a pretty big number. Over on the right-hand side, there is a search engine. Type in crypto conspiracy in that search engine and hit enter. You will see 30 podcasts that address the question you just asked me. What do I think? So it was called Crypto Conspiracy. So, that's just conspiracy. We put conspiracy on it, so that's what people think.
Yeah.
I think blockchain is great. but I am not favorable to the crypto space in most cases. Some I'm favorable to. Bitcoin, I'm not a fan of. I was definitely a fan to be libertarian minded. I would consider myself more of a free market thinker than a libertarian, but regardless, I like the idea of outside the banking system, anonymous, peer to peer, and away we go. We have our own private way to settle transactions. I love that idea. But it's morphed into the exact opposite. It's totally controlled by the big banks.
Yep.
It is not anonymous at all. They can track and trace everything. So I am pretty much looking at Bitcoin after you do those 30 podcasts. You don't have to look at them all. I would suggest you do number 1. You do number 4, where you see the Epstein tie into Bitcoin from MIT, how Bill Gates is involved. It's quite an extensive series of
Get ready because Hatsune Miku is coming to Desert Diamond Arena on April 28th. The Miku Expo 2026 North American Tour brings the world's most iconic virtual pop star to life in a mind-blowing live show, massive visuals, unreal fan energy, and a global community coming together for one unforgettable night, April 28th, Diamond Desert Arena. Celebrate the creative culture of Miku. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. See you there.
Have you been wronged by your nicotine pouches? Settled for sharp edges, rough texture, flavor that drops off? Your pouches are a total wreck, and we're here to get results. Introducing On Plus, the softest pouch on the planet, made with plush, stretchy Nico Soak mesh. That's right, it's as soft as it sounds. So stop settling. Buy On Plus nicotine pouches today at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
let's say, information about the Bitcoin particularly, but cryptos in general. So I like the idea. I mean, if you put a real asset on a crypto like cobalt, which is done, real estate, whatever, I don't think that's bad at all. But to just make a meme coin with a dog's face on it and become valuable, you're not thinking very well.
No. But this is, well, I'm going to stay with what you said right now. A couple years ago, when they made crypto an ETF, I knew it was over. I'm like, this is no longer our currency. It's an asset that's being traded like the stock market. It's just a different form of an asset. To me, this is just my opinion. It's just being traded like it was a particular stock, especially when they did the ETF. So I think the whole idea that people had behind it, I think is now gone and not just a speculative asset. Not all of them, but like you just said, Dogecoin or all these different coins, people are just buying them and doing pump and dump schemes and making money and just exiting.
It's very sad to me because, a lot of millennials and others are looking, and I didn't get in that mindset. I mean, I don't know, I hate to use the word greedy, but, I wanted to get it and get it now kind of thing as a young man and realize, the steady approach works best, but I had to learn that the hard way. But regardless, there's a lot of people that even don't want to bother opening up a brokerage account. They really don't trust the man. And I don't blame them. I've been kind of in that camp most of my life.
Yeah.
But they get into one of these meme coins, not knowing what the heck they're doing. They use their credit card to borrow the money to get in it. The thing starts to run up, and then they wake up the next day and they realize they've lost, half their investment.
Correct.
And that's very sad to me. And I guess, I want to make a little humor, but it's not funny, but in a way it's a hard-won lesson that hopefully they'll never have to read.
And like you said, they're younger doing it. So I think it's better to happen that early versus happening in someone's 40s and 50s when they're trying to do something like that. So to your point.
I agree.
So then we're both on this, not even the tinfoil hat, but what do you think the elites fear the most about, independent money systems like crypto and things like that?
Well, as you said, I think they've taken over the crypto, so they don't really fear that anymore. But I think there might have been a time that they did. In fact, I wrote an article called My 2 Bits About Bitcoin. You could probably find it on the web about what I thought about Bitcoin particularly. And I said that if it gets too favorable, the money elites will take it over, which is exactly what took place. So what they fear the most is us to have the money power. And the only way for us to really have the money power is for everybody to trade in silver. Now, that sounds ridiculous as far as the adaptability of it, because the adaptability for everyone to start trading in silver is probably 1 in 100 billion. I mean, the chances of that happening are almost zero. However, if we all went to trading in gold, that would be preferable to fiat currency that's going to explode. But remember, the banks control the gold, the old adage that he who owns the gold makes the rules.
Correct.
Well, if the banks still own most of the gold, they're going to continue to make the rules. But they don't control the silver market outside the bullion banks. So if, let's say we got all of America or all the world to theoretically buy silver, and we decided that we would do everyday commerce in silver, that would put all of the power into their hands. Boy, would they fear that? Hell, they'd be out of the game.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even they wouldn't be needed anymore. What a concept. But I mean, how looking at it's not going to happen. But these are the kind of thoughts I have in my, I'd say, darker moments of how do I help as many people on the planet, not just in North America, as possible, to understand how dire this control mechanism is, because it's only going to get worse in my studied view, because with a tokenized digital cashless society, they're going to trace everything that you do monetarily. They'll probably tax you at point of origin, and then they'll be able to program the money that if you are buying something outside of your 15-minute city, your debit card won't work. Or you drove too many miles to see your in-laws and you can't drive as much the next month. Or, Andre, you just eat too many hamburgers, you can't buy any next month. I mean, that's what we're facing. Now, I'm not saying that as an absolute, but that's the ability to do that exact thing exists. So that's a fact. On top of that, the Chinese monetary system in the cities, not in the country, but in all the cities, is basically what I just outlined. It's
true.
Yep. That goes between Tencent and WeChat, where everything's done off your phone. And what's funny? You're in China and your phone is out of power or you forgot it. Doesn't matter. The AI is so good that you walk up and just like this webcam we're talking on, sees your face, lets you come into the store. You pick up what you want. No one's in the store, by the way. The goods are, but no human being. And then you put your handprint down on like a little scale type of thing. It reads your print and it knows it's you, so it charges you anyway.
The funny thing, what you just said, which people might not know, there's three things I want to say. Everything you just said about gold, during the last 3 years, almost, I don't know how many countries just bought and stored a bunch of gold. So that, when you just said that, it reminded me of that a couple of years ago. I'm like, why is everyone buying gold? And this is before any of this run-up happened, because of what you just said. And then the second thing with China, everything you just said about China, if you go to the Intuit Dome where the Clippers play, you don't have to show a debit card or anything. You just walk into the stores in the arena and it just scans your face and you can just buy whatever. It'll just charge your debit card or whatever card you have on file to get whatever you want. And so what you're saying is probably going to come here because China did it first and through WeChat or whatever you just said. But I didn't know they had the face scan. I thought that was something that Intuit Dome just did that was revolutionary. But if it's already going on in China, I feel like the U.S. is trying to like become a little bit like China with desensitization on social media or like the, you know what I mean? Canceling people. And now what you just said, I mean, it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Well, China is the beta test for the new monetary system for the globalists.
Correct.
They want a one world currency, a one world system where they're in charge and there's a very few elite at the top and everyone else is basically a serf.
Correct.
I mean, that's the bottom line, to speak it in plain English. And it's happening. And the idea of how China really boomed from roughly the year 2000 till present day was based on a fiat Keynesian model of printing money to print wealth. And it works very well for a while, as we witnessed China.
Correct.
And now they've got the most modern technology. I mean, look at the maglev trains and the feminists. Now, I was there in 2008, so I didn't really get the full flavor of how modern it is. It's almost 20 years ago. But I also saw how rapidly it was growing. My point being is that model is amongst the elite well known to be the blueprint for the way they want to conduct business on a global basis.
100%. And then, China's, I think they own almost all the major ports. They're just, I don't know. People always talk about Well, I can't think of the guy's name who's always talking about China being the next superpower. Ray Dalio is always talking about China coming up, taking the place of the U.S. And you can kind of see it if you follow that kind of stuff that's going on. But what I want to ask you, like, based on what you were just saying right now, why do you think freedom is going to be the first casualty of a rigged monetary system?
Well, because what I said earlier, I mean, if you could control first of all, if you believe what I believe, that the whole system is based on the banking system. And I believe the money is power, and the power of control comes through the monetary system.
True.
And not everybody can be bought and paid for. I can't, you can't. Many probably people can't, but the more psychopathic types can. I mean, most of the Congress critters are bought and paid for. Most of the senatards are bought and paid for. Mm-hmm. And you have the money power that will corrupt you. And so you have a corrupt system based on a false monetary system. I mean, I will speak for you and correct me, Andre, if I'm wrong, but I think most of us, wherever our nationality or point of origin is, teach our kids you can't get something for nothing. You got to work for it. That's the real world. And yet the whole system on a global empire is based on creating money out of nothing. So they get the most important control mechanism called quote unquote money, really currency, and they're able to control every nation state. Think about the political wars that are going on. And yet look one level above that. All wars are bankers' wars. You think the bankers care who wins the war? No, as long as it's financed and they make more quote unquote money, they're in control. So they don't really care if you're communist, fascist, socialist, free democracy, a republic, or a monarchy. Doesn't matter. As Mira Rothschild purportedly said, let me create the currency and I care not who makes the laws. And that's exactly where we're at. So we got to go a level above and kind of think outside the box what's really going on. On top of that, when you get into the current situation with Venezuela, and God, I'm so sad to even say Iran.
Yeah.
I got choked up, but it's about the money power because Iran is not in the Rothschild system.
Get ready because Hatsune Miku is coming to Desert Diamond Arena on April 28th. The Miku Expo 2026 North American Tour brings the world's most iconic virtual pop star to life in a mind-blowing live show, massive visuals, unreal fan energy, and a global community coming together for one unforgettable night, April 28th, Diamond Desert Arena. Celebrate the creative culture of Miku. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. See you there.
Have you been wronged by your nicotine pouches? Settled for sharp edges, rough texture, flavor that drops off? Your pouches are a total wreck, and we're here to get results. Introducing On Plus, the softest pouch on the planet, made with plush, stretchy Nico Silk mesh. That's right, it's as soft as it sounds. So stop settling. Buy On Plus nicotine pouches today at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It's one of the few countries like Cuba and a couple more that are in their system. China has been, and it's the advanced system. But so that's part one. Part two is oil. As much as my followers might think money makes the world go round, that's a subset. Energy makes the world go round. And for the most part, that means oil. So whoever controls the oil really controls the world.
Ever wished you had the opportunity to buy a stock like Facebook, Amazon, or Netflix before it went public or was able to get shares in companies like VC firms and angel investors? Well, here's your chance. Go to investfar.com/invest and reserve a position. For the next 1 to 3 months, InvestFar is allowed a limited number of low-cost shares be available for friends, family, and its community per SEC regulations before it goes public. Imagine being able to 1,000x or 10,000x your investment, like the top 5%. With exclusive opportunities such as this, positions are limited and the window of time is short. Don't miss your chance. That's INV, as in Victor, ESTFAR.com/invest.
That makes sense. And that's kind of why Trump did what he did with Venezuela and trying to get over there first. And we know, like you said, we're not going to dive that far into politics, but I do want to point out something that you're saying. I think currency, to me, and our channel is Uncensored Collective Media. I think that the narrative to me is now going into of like attention, right? I think attention is the best currency now. People are using or media companies are using the narrative to control people's minds and make them think that everything's okay when it's really not okay. So what's your thoughts on, we talked about currency, but what do you think about, attention being the new currency? And if you can control that, you can control the world.
Well, I think you make up a really salient point. And thanks for bringing it up. I wouldn't have thought of it on my own, but you're exactly right. Because if you know how the social media system works, is the algorithms are prepared to see what you watch.
Correct.
And it knows that. It takes that into your IP address, and then it feeds you stuff that keeps to resonate more and more within that framework. Mm-hmm. So we could be looking at war. Let's say I'm super right wing. Let's kill them all. Let God sort it out.
Correct.
I'm going to get that kind of feed on my YouTube channels, on my TikTok channel, on my social media platforms, and I'm going to be convinced more and more that kill them all. Let God sort it out. Whereas you get someone that, let's say, absolute peace, no war ever. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill," in almost all three major religions. What the hell are we doing? And that's all you look at. You're going to be fed that more and more and more. So both those extremes, but both those ends of the pendulum are getting fed information to convince themselves more and more that they're right and everyone else is wrong. So it's exactly what you said. Now, if you could control their thinking, then you could control it. I'll have to digress a moment. We talked about end of the age of empire. So I want to make two notes. One is, if you go to my website, theonereport.com, step one is to get on the free email list. Step two is to watch two films. One, Silver Sunrise, I just mentioned beginning. The second one is called The Four Horsemen, which is a film about the end of the age of empire. I'm in the movie. Many others are. I'm not bragging. I was lucky to get into that movie. But it talks about what we're discussing, how these empires fall. It's a cyclical thing, and it's going to do it again and again. And that's, what we need to know. But one more comment. So at the beginning of that, Julian Tennant, who works for the Financial Times that we used to, brilliant young woman. She's older now. It's that movie's, 12 years old or something. And they asked about control. And she said, well, it's all about the cognitive map, which is a fancy way of saying it's how you're taught to think.
Correct.
And if you can tell people how to think, then you have the monetary control. Brilliant statement. Comes right in with what you said. I'm glad you brought that topic up, Andre, because people are sitting there getting refed, revivified again and again. I'm right. Look, I'm right. Oh, yeah. And that guy says I'm right. Oh, she says I'm right. And that politician says I'm right. And all that does is divide and conquer. Which is the oldest game in the book. It's, and it's sad. It's sad, but very few people could see above and beyond that. So shows like yours, Investing Uncensored, that challenges the mainstream status quo, tune into my channel and get the truth. I'm getting it from CNN. No, I'm getting it from Fox. Throw them both away. I mean, you got to get down to the real truth if you want to find out anything, and you got to be open-minded. And as the late, great Ayn Rand said, and I don't agree with everything she wrote, but a lot of it was based in logic.
Get ready, because Hatsune Miku is coming to Desert Diamond Arena on April 28th. The Miku Expo 2026 North American Tour brings the world's most iconic virtual pop star to life in a mind-blowing live show, massive visuals, unreal fan energy, and a global community coming together for one unforgettable night. April 28th, Diamond Desert Arena. Celebrate the creative culture of Miku. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. See you there.
At Verbo, we understand that even the best of plans sometimes need a little support. So we plan for the plot twists. Every booking is automatically backed by our Verbo Care Guarantee, giving you confidence from the very start. Whenever you need help, it's ready. Before your stay, through the moments in between, and after your trip. Because a great trip starts with peace of mind. And maybe a good playlist. But we've got the peace of mind part covered.
That you got to check your premises. If I check my premise that all fiat fails, and I find out one day that no, it doesn't, only half the time does fiat fail, and I learn that, I'd have to check my premise. Say, wait a minute, I'm wrong now. I'm not, because all fiat has failed up to this point. But you get my the idea of being open-minded and able to accept that you could be wrong. People get emotional and they get attached, and then they get their, like sports team, they get their certain political ideology that they think that their team is better than the other one. No, they're all criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all criminals. That's what we have to understand.
Yeah. It's funny you said, I have a psychology background, right? And I've worked on this framework called adaptive sovereignty. And so there's this thing that I call cognitive immunity and narrative defense. People don't have those. Like, how people have an immune system. People have no cognitive immunity. So if any narrative comes out in the mainstream, or for example, if you live in Beverly Hills or somewhere super nice and your Instagram feed is showing you war in Gaza or war in something going on in Venezuela, you're going to think the entire world is like that. But when you walk outside, it's nowhere near your reality. But that's what is going on with the algorithms. And so people don't have cognitive immunity. So they just are susceptible to anything that they read or anything that they see on TV. And it's just changing their entire perspective on life. And they could have a great life and they probably have a good life. But that leads me to what I want to ask you now. I think we've been in a situation for like the last 5 years. We talked about the debt. I think the debt is like 38 trillion. We're doing so much stuff. People are talking about the great reset is coming. I think it's already here. And the narrative that's going around is that the economy is great. I think they changed the definition of a recession 2 years ago. So what's your opinion on where we're at in the economy? And do you think the great reset is coming or is it already here?
Well, I agree. I would say it's all the way here, completed, but certainly progress has been made to it. I mean, basically, we're in a digital system already.
Correct.
And then, some people got the idea that we have to be on a cryptocurrency or a CBDC, central bank digital currency, in order for the banks to have complete control and shut off our money. That's not true. Canada shut off the money to the trucker strike in Canada when the people came out and said, we're against this part of the illness. No, their crypto accounts and their bank accounts were shut down. So that proves what you're saying. The system is already mostly in place. I don't think it's in place to the level it's going to be, meaning the 15-minute city, or you ate too many carbs or whatever, or and that's the thing about freedom, backing up. You asked me about freedom a while back and I didn't finish, but freedom is the most important thing for all of us. That choice. If you don't have your freedom, what do you have? It doesn't matter. And now we used to think about freedom as being financial. If you had X amount of money, you could quit your job. I mean, if you're, and wealth is different for everybody. I mean, everybody's kind of got a number, a million's enough for a lot of people. 10 million isn't enough for some people, but you get my premise that as there's an amount out there that you don't have to work, you can do whatever you want. If you're big hearted, you start a foundation or you help an orphanage, or if you're greedy, you buy 3 yachts. I mean, but you have financial freedom. So on the new system, it doesn't matter what your bank account. You could be a billionaire, but if you're not socially correct and you against the mainstream narrative, you can't buy an airplane ticket no matter what. You can't get into the private school no matter what. So it's beyond. So you used to be able to, have more control by the amount of money you had. Now you don't. You have control based upon your allegiance to the set ideology by the powers that be. So that's very, very sad.
I think what you said right now, and back to China, isn't it something called a social score?
Yes.
That they can shut off? Yeah, you can elaborate on that. I think you know more about it than me, but I just heard about it. But it's a social score, right?
Yeah, it's social credit, it's called. And it's about how much you, in the 1984 George Orwell book, it's how much you pledge your allegiance to the state. And if you're anti-state, you will be punished. And a lot of what comes out of China is propaganda or slanted, just like we do. I mean, to get the real truth out of the press is almost impossible because the press is controlled by the elites. So they feed you what you want to feed them. What really gets to me sometimes is, oh my God, did you just listen to this breakthrough? And most of those breakthroughs were leaked on purpose for a destination that they already control.
Correct.
People think they don't realize how manipulated they are. They think that they really are, now there are some out there that are at the tip of the spear, leading edge, and go beyond anyone else. And I know a few of them, a couple personally, but it really takes effort, like you outlined in your premise that you outlined so wonderfully about, the cognitive map, my words, or Julian Tent's words, about really be able to think outside the box, not accept everything at face value. What's the meaning? And most of the time, not always, it's follow the money.
Correct.
And if you follow the money, you get at least closer to the truth than you do just by the propaganda press run by the criminal elite, no matter what nationality or what country they pretend to belong to. All the elites are not allegiant to any country. They have no patriotic attitude whatsoever. All they care about is control. I mean, how much money can you have at these levels? I mean, seriously, counting. And, how many yachts do you have to, keep? One probably sufficient. Why have three? But the point I'm making is that it's about control. Mm-hmm. They are megalomaniacs. They want to be able to control the sheep. And they're very fearful that we're going to get out of the cage and we're going to come find them, because there's a lot more of us than there are of them. And they've done us wrong for so long. But people just accept, I remember talking, I'll have to give it back to you real quick, but one of my friends, I started explaining what was going on, and I gave him my spiel, and I was pretty excited. And, I've been at this quite some time at that point in time, but I thought, well, now's a good time to lay it all out on. I just took a deep breath, and, 80% probably went over his head. I was just like a machine gun. I about alert. And he goes, well, David, somebody's got to be. Like, we have to have banking, and so why are you so upset,
I think the critical thinking aspect is just gone. So, I mean, the stuff that we're saying is great in theory that if it could take place, but I think social media has gotten so out of hand. There's so many platforms. The attention span of a human is like 8 seconds. It's down from 20 seconds just 3 years ago. It's like we're slower than goldfish. And I don't even think people understand that. They don't know that, right? If you say something to them like that, and the climate of the U.S. at least, people are so sensitive. So it's like, oh, why'd you say that? So I think the critical thinking is just gone. So if you go on social media and a million people like something, it must be true. That's not true. It's just because a million people liked it doesn't mean it's fact, but then people don't want to fact check. And then that's a whole nother thing. So, I mean, I think everything we're saying is great. And it would be great if, this video got 2 million views, because I think this is something that people need to see, for one, because we're telling the truth. And it's just, we're trying to open people's eyes to something that you should be aware of, right? We can't predict the future, but I mean, you can follow history. And based on everything you just said, empires generally fall in the same way, and we're falling very similar to the ones that came before us, right? So with saying that, is there anything that you think people should know before the next collapse takes place?
Well, I think a couple things. One is in that movie, The Four Horsemen, which is all about the end of the age of empire. And it's a cyclical thing you go through. I can't name them, but like there's the pioneers and then the frontiersmen and whatever. You finally get to a civil organization, a society, and, then it gets corrupted and people really are pampered. What's the adage that, strong, weak men, lose the society and strong men come back and rebuild it. And I'm paraphrasing. But in this age of empire, it talks about where you're near the end. One of the things is an obsession with food. And that was true in the Roman Empire. The elite were eating and purging. I'll leave it at that, a kind word. While the masses were going to the Colosseum to get free bread because they were not starving, but weren't eating like the elite. Well, now you have the Iron Chef and Bobby Flay and all this. I'm not against those programs. I'm just saying that history repeats. And there's this, and the other one of the obsessions is sex. That sex is everything. Without getting too politically incorrect, there's a lot of emphasis on that term at an age where it's not even appropriate.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because kids don't know anything until they reach puberty. So why tell them something that they have no idea about? I mean, it's like me speaking foreign language to you.
Get ready because Hatsune Miku is coming to Desert Diamond Arena on April 28th. The Miku Expo 2026 North American Tour brings the world's most iconic virtual pop star to life in a mind-blowing live show, massive visuals, unreal fan energy, and a global community coming together for one unforgettable night, April 28th, Diamond Desert Arena. Celebrate the creative culture of Miku. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. See you there.
College basketball is down to 4, and now you can trade on the tournament in all 50 states on Kalshi. Arizona is currently trading at 48% to beat Michigan. That means a $100 trade pays out $201 if they win. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. As the odds move, you can buy in and out of your position all tournament long. And for a limited time, download the Kalshi app, use code HEART to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything.
You wouldn't know what I'm speaking about. We wouldn't really be communicating. And it's very, very, very sad to me. So there's just a couple markers. The other one, as you said, I think, if I could wave the magic wand and, say, what would I wish for everybody? And it was only one thing. I mean, in a way, I'd want everybody to be happy, joyous, and free, but those are three things. And it's dependent on good food and, clean water and all that. So let me digress. One thing would be critical thinking. Please be able to discern for yourself. And the problem is, as you said so well, Andre, is that people think they think because they get those 100 or 1,000 or 1 million likes and a thumbs up, and therefore it must be true. It reminds me of when I was I don't know, 13, 14. And, I was pretty much outside the box from birth. Don't ask me how or why. I just am. Thank you, God. But, someone said, well, I saw it on TV. Well, like if you saw it on TV, it came straight out of the source.
Seriously.
My dad would always say, consider the source. In other words, do your homework. You realize where that's coming from, don't you?
And the thing, we both have our opinion. We're not saying it's a fact, but I mean, just outside looking in, you kind of see what's going on. And so you kind of see maybe your friends have changed, or maybe you just see, I'm not 12, right? I've seen things change from when I was young, and you've seen things change yourself. So you can kind of just see what's happening. And you mentioned the thing about sex. That was one of the big things when the Roman Empire fell. Toward the end, all of that stuff that was going on. So all of that kind of stuff that's happening right now is very similar to what was happening in the Roman Empire. So I don't know. It's just, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, that's why people have free will. Everyone's allowed to make their own decisions. And that's kind of why we kind of do what we're doing. And you've been doing what you've been doing for all these years, is just to try to make people aware. I mean, that's what we can do.
Aware and take action. I mean, what does annoy me somewhat, and I can't, force anyone. No, we don't want to force anyone.
Right.
I believe in voluntarism, that you make your own choice. But how many are pseudo-educated, but they look at it as infotainment?
Yeah.
Andre has a really great show. I love tuning in every week or whatever it is and getting that information, but they fail to take action. And I've thought about over the years and get your feedback. Because you might have something to add, but I think people ask me, well, they listened to you for 2 or 3 years and they never bought any silver or gold. Why is that? And the best I could come up with is that when you take the actual action of going to a coin shop, or if you're in Europe, a bank, or in Canada, a bank, and you put your currency on the counter and you take out some gold and silver coins and you go, you have actually committed to yourself that something is wrong.
Correct.
And you're making a move to protect yourself or your family or your business or whatever. And most people don't want to. They have the normalcy bias. So, yeah, it sounds bad. And geez, Andre even agreed with a lot of what David said. But I know that now my social media account says that, the economy's just fine and happy days are here again. And, whip zam zing, next time there's an election, we're going to get the right guy in office. So it's sad to me that people don't take action, because the word satisfaction has the word action. The only way you get satisfaction in life basically is by doing something, not thinking about it or watching it or commenting on it. I mean, the easiest thing in the world to be is a critic. I get critics all the time, and that's why I decided to turn off the comments.
Yeah.
I'm not monetized on any of my channels deliberately. I don't want the money. I'm making a good living. I don't want all that nausea. and the ability to put ads on there that I might not agree with, that type of thing. But, being a critic doesn't take any energy at all, Now, I have opened up the comments on the Silver Sunrise because I want feedback from the general public. Is I might do a sequel. I might do an interview with you. Maybe if you watch it and get back to me and say, hey, David, can we do a half hour? I have something I will do. And my question, if I was, having a conversation with you, would be, okay, here's the three things that I think are most important. I said one, critical thinking. But Andre, what do you think would be the main change that would help humanity, and get your view?
That's important. That's the thing that I think is missing is dialogue. Like they canceled that. The communication is probably the most important thing that people need to have, and they don't have it. That's probably the biggest issue, even in relationships. That's just a thing. So, I mean, the dialogue is what is needed. But I also think that there's identity. Identity is such a big thing in the States. You know what I mean? More so to me than any other country. I travel a lot. You have too. You know how that is here. And you got identity politics. Everyone needs to be, and as humans, we have this herd mentality. Like people need to feel like they belong to something. So you just choose a side, not necessarily knowing if that's the side you should choose. But I think because people aren't aware of who they really are and they aren't comfortable having the conversation, that's what I think is causing a lot of this stuff. And they just follow, whatever everybody else says. I did want to ask you as we're coming to a close, and I would love to come on that. I'm going to watch that show and then get back to you because I think it would be good for us to just continue the conversation. But what are 3 books, or what are not even 3 books? What are 2 books? Obviously, your book would be good, Silver Manifesto, but what are 2 other books that you can give advice on? And then I want to know one thing that you think specifically a person should do to be prepared for anything that's coming in the next, financial crisis.
Okay. One book would be What Has the Government Done to Our Money? It's a very quick read by Murray Rothbard, probably one of the best economic libertarian-minded thinkers ever. That'd be one. Another one would be The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, who was a Olympian gymnast. Very philosophical. It's a fictional / perhaps not fictional book. It really talks about living within your means and what real success is. And it's not, a stack of gold coins or, your bank cards and what car you drive.
Yeah.
The last one, I'll plug my movie a little bit because you hit on it real hard without knowing about it. But one of my main messages in the film is about the Oracle of Delphi, to thine own self be true. And that's really very important to have that integrity. In the movie previous to that, The Four Horsemen, before the MAGA movement was ever even talked about or known, I was talking about the degradation of the end of the age of empire, talking about America used to be great. It used to be, a stalwart that we could look up to ideology from a other country perspective, but it's lost that. Now it's the best food, the best magazine, the best neighborhood, the best car. And what used to make America great. And my brother-in-law, I said, God, I've never seen David get mad before. But yeah, the rule of law, reason that we had so much investment in this country is the rule of law actually worked for some time. Now it's not what it was. And so you would come into a country where you're treated the best and you knew that it was more or less fair. Of course, that's ancient history now. So I digressed. I think I might have got off track a little bit, but honestly, it's speaking the truth. I think you said at the beginning, there's nothing more powerful than the truth. And I got to make a caveat on that because you go to, I'll call them the New Agers. I don't like to put anybody in a box because people are people, but it's my truth. Well, my truth is what we've discussed a lot on this show. And that is, it's my algorithm feeding me that I'm always right. That's not the truth. That's your
truth. Exactly.
And this is the problem. You've got to be objective and get above both sides and see reality for what it is. And unfortunately, critical thinking is something, and the old adage that, common sense is not very common.
The biggest takeaway that I get is like what we're talking about right now. Obviously, you want to be financial savvy with what's coming, but just be okay with someone else having a different opinion and being open to hearing what that is. We don't have to agree on everything. It's okay, right? But for some people that they need to be right, And it's like, no, you don't have to be. It's like, let's agree to disagree and just move on. And we can still be cool, right? We don't have to be friends, or we can be, right?
Sure.
But David, I enjoyed it. This has been insightful. And I obviously would love to have you back. And then I would love to take a look at what you just mentioned and see if I can come on there. And because I do think, what we're talking about is something that people really need to hear. So if you can, I know you have the Morgan Report, but if you can give them other place that they can follow you and, give us.
Yeah, well, I'm on Twitter at SilverGuru22. The easiest thing to do is just go to the landing page, themorganreport.com, and there's icons right there at the top. So there's an icon to go to LinkedIn, an icon to go to the YouTube channel, and an icon to go to X. So just kind of one landing page, and you can branch off from there to my 3 platforms. Twitter is where I'm basically uncensored. I've got 125,000 followers there. YouTube has been shadow banned from day one. Facebook I don't bother with. LinkedIn is more B2B, but I think LinkedIn is not the platform that it's purported to be, although it is getting better.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're particularly motivated to any of those social media platforms, I'm on those 3. But the blog is actually the best place, and the free newsletter, because conversations like this, I put it up and mail to you directly. So it's there on the weekend for you, and you can, podcast it while you're driving to church or, whatever. I mean, I'm here to, my main mission is to teach and empower people to understand the benefits of an honest monetary system. And that covers worldwide. And if we were all on a level playing field where we all had equal rights under the law, and that we had a level playing field. And of course it's not. You and I both. I mean, the first lesson I gave my daughters was life isn't fair, get used to.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean we can't strive to make it more fair, because it's gotten so extreme. And as you said, you got to be red or blue or pink or yellow. I mean, come on. To thine own self be true. And if you're really a truth seeker, you're going to question the left. You're going to question the right. You're going to question the moderate. You're going to question everything.
Everything, exactly.
Above all, question authority, because they have got the upper hand on you. We've been taught from the time we were born, more or less, to honor authority. And that is something you should question most of the time, because these megalomaniacs, the criminal element that's running our planet, need to be displaced by something that's much more equitable to humanity.
I appreciate that. David, this has been great. Thank you for coming on. And again, I look forward to bringing you back.
Well, my pleasure, Andre. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, sir.
Get ready, because Hatsune Miku is coming to Desert Diamond Arena on April 28th. The Miku Expo 2026 North American Tour brings the world's most iconic virtual pop star to life in a mind-blowing live show, massive visuals, unreal fan energy, and a global community coming together for one unforgettable night. April 28th, Diamond Desert Arena. Celebrate the creative culture of Miku. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. See you there.
You know when you're wrapping up a long day and that what's for dinner panic hits? Well, when you've got convenient everyday protein from Omaha Steaks waiting at home, that panic turns into your weeknight win. And now's the time to buy during Omaha Steaks Spring Savings Event. Save big on their exclusive lineup of mouthwatering steaks, gourmet burgers, air-chilled chicken, pork, seafood, and more, all delivered right to your door. Plus, get an extra $35 off with promo code AUDIO when you shop omahasteaks.com today. With over 100 years of unrivaled quality and variety, Omaha Steaks understands what you need to get dinner done. Plus, every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. Omaha Steaks is your weeknight win, so get the world's best everyday protein during their spring savings event. Go to omahasteaks.com for an extra $35 off when you use promo code AUDIO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code AUDIO. Terms apply. See site for details.